Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about something that people need to understand. And when I say understand this, it is necessary for training maturity, right? This is about having maturity in the gym and really being able to be honest with yourself and assess what it is that you are doing. And when I say this, I am not behaving as some all-knowing guru sitting up on the top of the mountain who is not guilty of ever doing this myself, okay? I am telling you guys this from a voice of experience, as someone who has decades in the game, who's been pretty successful at powerlifting, broken state records in a couple of classes in the Masters. I've qualified for Worlds and a couple of Feds. I coach full time, okay? I work with a lot of lifters of a lot of demographics. I've seen a lot of nonsense over the years. I've made some mistakes myself. I've made plenty of them. So a lot of this is a learning experience. And when I say these things, I am trying to help people make shortcuts and not have to learn this stuff through their own nonsense. It's like learn from my mistakes, right? Like in a perfect world, that's what we would all do. We would listen to people who have a lot more experience than us and knowledge than us and say, hey, these are mistakes I was making 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Don't make these mistakes. You'll be better if you don't. And then people listen and say, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. I'm going to learn from your mistakes so I can do better. Right? That's really how we should do things. If we're intelligent, we will do that. So when I'm saying that training maturity is not counting bad PRs, what do I mean? If you're not consistent in your lifts, because what is it that we are doing with PRs? PRs are representative of muscle growth or they're representative of strength improvements. And in most cases, let's be realistic, they're actually an indicator of both. It's not an either or. In other words, did your 5 rep max or your 10 rep max go up on a lift? Legitimately go up. Of course it did. Did an exercise that you could only do 8 reps with a given weight, if you can do 11 or 12 with it now, does that represent more muscle growth? Yes, it absolutely does. If you can do that, and it's not a brand new lift, right? It's not a lift that you have a bunch of neural drive you can learn on. In other words, it's a lift you've been doing for a while, okay? Let's say your bench press, your squat, your curl, your barbell curl. If your old 8 rep max, you can do 10 or 11 or 12 reps with it now, and it's not a new movement you're learning, you gained muscle, you got bigger. If it's a true, legitimate, real PR, it is an indicator of that. Same thing with a 1 rep max. It's a sign that we got bigger and stronger, almost guaranteed, if it's a lift you've maxed on regularly in the past. Okay? People say, well, what's the problem? Is that we want to game it. And people want to count PRs that don't count. In other words, you just saw me do that bench with a 2-second pause on my chest, butt stayed on the bench, heels flat on the floor. Had I got that lift with a different technique, would it count? Right? Let's say that my best lift doing it that way before that was 355. And I managed to get to that 365. That was a very clean, very strict bench press. But what if I had touch and go'd it? Or bounced it? Or put leaves on? Or a spotter touched it? All right? That becomes ambiguous. That we can't count that. And I don't mean that we can't. People say, of course I can count it. No, you can't. And here's why. Because we're doing these things to prove to ourselves in an objective manner that we have made progress. So that we know that what we are doing is working and what we are doing is correct because it's getting results. Right? But if we're cheating it to get there, we're not really getting the results, are we? This is our ego getting in the way. This is us being stubborn and having an ego. Instead of saying, look, did I actually get bigger or stronger? Right? Did I? And being honest with yourself about it. And that's the point. We can't count this unless all the variables are the same. And when you start doing forms, this is why I say we only count PRs on clean movements. Right? Movements that we're not really cheating on. Why? Because we don't know how much we cheated otherwise. You can't count it. Did you add 10 more pounds of force with the bounce off your chest? Did you add 5 or 10 or 20 more pounds with the way you lifted your butt off the bench? You don't know. You have no way to assess that. But let's say you come over to pull-ups. Let's say you get a rep PR on your weighted pull-ups. If you came to a full stop at the bottom on every rep, right? Okay, like you see me doing there on the work sets, you know it's a PR. You know that every one of those reps counted. So if, I don't know, with a single plate, your best ever was 4 or 5, but then you get 7. Or your best ever with it was 10, but you get 12. If all 12 of those, you came to a stop and it was strict. You didn't swing, you didn't bounce out of the bottom. What does that tell you? You know that you made progress. You can almost objectively say, I know that my lats probably got bigger. My lats are bigger and stronger because I was able to add a couple of more pull-ups on strict full stop pull-ups at the bottom with that weight. You know for certain that your back got stronger and bigger, right? There's no doubt about that. It's objective. Same thing on those pause reps on the bench. Same thing if you're sinking those squats all the way. Same thing if you're resetting that deadlift. You're not using a really whippy bar with thick plates, something that can change from workout to workout. Right? The amount of bar bend could vary. You're not changing those things. Then you know that it counts. And here's the thing. I will go so far as to say is that if you don't have confidence in what you are doing and you're having to game it to get those extra pounds or kilos or reps, you're either having an ego about it or you have doubt as to what is happening. You have doubt as to the effectiveness of what you are doing. Well, that's not a good situation. Because this is information that tells us, are we making progress or not? And if our goal of our training is to make progress, we need to know these things. Right? We need to know these things. And being mature with our training is saying, hey, I'm only going to count PRs when they're really legitimate. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.